It'll be 1 to go this time by. Coming to the green, buddy, coming to the green. Let's go get him. Go, 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 dig, 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 go, 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 go.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
Hinton, Claire B., and Lee Spencer, and then Pockers.
Ed Hinton, ESPN.com. Brian, all these years and all these roles you've had at Hendrick, have you ever seen Hendrick Motorsports shift and focus this many resources, move this many people full-time to a task as for this one?
Yes, I mean, there's from time to time, if a team's not performing well, we'll do this. This one's just a little bit more publicized than normal. So, no, this is not really uncommon. It's just something we don't normally advertise and tell everybody exactly what we're doing. But for myself, Rex Stump, to become involved, and as we're going to do this weekend and continue to support Lance after that, that's common. And like I said, we just don't talk about it publicly a lot.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius NASCAR Radio. Lance and Brian both, can you talk about the communication that comes from Dale Jr. to the crew chief and back to Dale Jr.? Is he going to have to change how he does this? Will you change it? And is that perhaps your biggest challenge? Can you talk us through that? And then also talk about how much pressure you guys feel right now to accomplish the task.
Well, it's hard to really say, Claire, until we get involved. I was fortunate enough to work with Dale a couple times last year in the Nationwide Series. We did a couple races out of Junior Motorsports while Chad Walters was on suspension. So I have had communication with him. I will probably ask different questions, but it's just kind of, it's really hard to say until you get put in the situation. But, like I said before, obviously there's a lot of pressure here, and because it is Dale Jr. and because it is such a big deal, that constantly being under the microscope, having millions of people listen to what you say on the radio, obviously you have to be aware of that. So as we grow together, I believe that the communication will become exactly what it needs to be, very precise and proper.
Have you talked with him yet?
I talked to him last night for the first time, actually, yeah.
For either one of you, Junior told us yesterday that the guy that takes the job going into 2010 is either cocky, confident as hell, or crazy. Is that the reason why you guys are the interim crew chiefs? Because you don't fit any of those traits?
I wouldn't say that's why we're listed as interim. I think whatever works in the situation and however those personalities match up, I think people are sometimes surprised how they interact with others. And you never know exactly what's going to work. So that's a big part of the reason for the change, is to do something different. So we don't know exactly what is going to work, but we're going to make sure that something does. And however that is, or whoever adjusts or adapts, that's what we're going to work on in addition to, working on the cars. But I think that will work out. And no, we don't know who that'll be. It'll just be the most qualified person we can find at that time.
We got Bob and then Liz. And then Gary.
Bob Pockers, NASCAR Scene. Lance, I know you've enjoyed kind of the role that hasn't brought you at the track every week. Do you want this job full time? And Rick said that he thinks this team can still make the chase. Is that your goal?
Well, I mean, ultimately, when you're presented an opportunity like this, you dive in and go. And ultimately, yeah, obviously that would be the goal, is to make the chase and to make a run for the championship this season. It would be landmark for that to happen, as history shows where they are in points at this particular time. But nobody's come from as far back as Mark Martin to make the chase, and obviously he's performing extremely well with the 5 team. So we're going to do a really good job of leaning on our teammates, getting good advice from the right people, and we'll see how it goes from there. Obviously the performance on the track is the bottom line, and that's what we're shooting to improve on.
Liz.
Thanks. Liz Clark from the Washington Post for Brian. you know, given that you said that the equipment and resources for the 88 have been the same as the other Hendrick teams, I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about the performance of the driver in the results at the moment, and if you could specifically talk about the two missed pit stops at Daytona. You know, what did you make of that? Is there an opportunity for the driver to also raise his game as you go forward?
I think that, we did have those issues at Daytona and missed the pit box a couple of times. And sometimes it's as simple as changing the sign in the pit box. Sometimes it's a matter of just us communicating better with him to let him know where that pit box is and talking him in and doing those things. So I can't answer why he missed those pit boxes. Only he really knows why that was done. But, you know, I think we need to give him, you know, a feel that he's looking for, and that's part of the communication. That's part of the personality. That's part of, or a big part of what we're trying to make better. And as far as him getting better, I feel like his talent is exactly where it needs to be, and you know, we just need to respond with that and with the people and how we're doing things, so that he can do his job without worrying if everything else is getting taken care of.
Gary?
Gary Graves, USA Today. Could more changes be coming with this? I mean, is there that kind of room where you could just change everything completely? And when you look at things right now, I mean, you talk about a final straw, but obviously there's been a pattern, and have there been some things that you've been able to identify along the way that at some point you said they had to be changed?
We always, I mean, weekly are looking at the performance of the group and what you're doing and reevaluating and going back next week. That's the one thing about this business, is you reset the clock every Monday morning and you go again. So yes, each weekend we come home, we evaluate, you know, the pit crew, the road crew, the shop crew. Are things getting done the way they need to get done? And we've made changes this year. You know, Tony Jr. is not the first thing we've done. You know, we've made some other personnel changes throughout the year. You know, we're looking for a group of people that want to do this at a championship level. And if there's a point when we feel that's not being done, then we make those changes.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time, for being here. I think that'll do it.